Iowa Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks. Congresswoman, great to have you as always. Took Attorney General Merrick Garland over 2 months to announce the discovery of these classified documents in Biden's possession. And while the media eagerly torched former President Trump over, quote, nuclear codes that were never found in his Mar-a-Lago home, Joe Biden happily joined in bashing President Trump. Watch this.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
Right, Joe Biden. How could anyone be that irresponsible? Congresswoman, CNN reported earlier today that Biden's classified documents, including U.S. intel materials related to Ukraine, Iran, and the UK. If we get a fair investigation, and if it is determined that Biden's possession of classified documents compromised American national security, what should the House do? And what should the consequences be for Joe Biden?
Well, first, let me just say that's why the House is going to put forward a special subcommittee on the weaponization of federal government agencies, because people have lost trust in our government agencies, which are being used to politicize conversation or dialogue or people that they don't like or with whom they don't agree with. So here you have a clear situation, and it brings to mind that we know that the Democrats and the administration was extraordinarily critical of President Trump when classified documents were not returned to the National Archives in whatever fashion and manner that they thought they should have been returned. But now we learn that these documents have been in, the Biden, possession for over 6 years. So it brings to mind, could they have instituted the Attorney General to have the search of Mar-a-Lago because they knew these documents were in the possession of the Bidens, illegally in possession classified documents, and this was to detract information from when they released that they had these documents. So, people can't trust what this administration says, unfortunately, and it's why we have to pursue this vigorously. And we just want the same standard to apply. Vice presidents cannot declassify information. So this is actually much more egregious than the classified information, which, as we know, was revealed that it was nothing to what they were, putting forward in the conjectures about what these documents held. They didn't hold nuclear codes, but there's a lot of concern over these documents, and we want people to be treated the same. And again, as you said earlier, vice presidents do not have the ability to declassify documents or information.
Right, and Congressman, I want to press you on this, because if it is determined that Joe Biden's possession of these documents, illegally possessing these documents for 6 years, and if it's determined that Communist China, who, by the way, funded that building that his initiative sat in, if it is determined that it compromised national security, what should the consequences for Joe Biden be?
Well, let's first find out what's in the documents and what they reveal. So let's do that. Let's be a little bit more cautious than our friends on the other side of the aisle are. Let's see what the documents are, and then let's have people treated the same. Let's have the rule of law apply to people equally. So I think that's the first course of action. Let's do that. And then for the Republicans, I think this week we're going to set up the select subcommittee on the weaponization of government agencies. And I think that's a critically important step so that we can have a government that works for everyone, that no one is treated as a second-class citizen, and that the rule of law applies to all of us.
Applies equally to all of us.
Equally, and that there's accountability for government officials. We need accountability.
Right, exactly. That the rules do apply to government officials as it applies to we citizens. The biased press is trying to downplay this damning story by saying that Biden's classified documents scandal isn't as bad as Trump because Biden didn't fight the National Archives and gave the documents back when asked, after 6 years, of course. But Congresswoman, there's one crucial difference here. President Trump had the executive power to declassify information. As we've already gone over, vice presidents do not have that power. Plus, again, this must be accentuated. Biden illegally possessed these documents for over 6 years. Does your conference have the strength to push back when the biased pro-Democrat media tries to push this narrative over real news?
Yeah, I think we do exactly that, and it's why, as we've talked about, we're looking at ways to hold government officials accountable, ways to increase transparency. I mean, this is more egregious action. He's had these documents for over 6 years. They're classified documents. We know that they're related to Ukraine, and we have a situation in Ukraine now, and we also have previous allegations, and President Biden himself, when he was vice president, talking about action within Ukraine and getting rid of a certain elected official within the judicial system in Ukraine. So, I mean, this is egregious action. He's had the documents for 6 years. We have no idea if that was why. I would conjecture, could they have done the raid on Mar-a-Lago to detract from this, knowing that they had these documents? But 6 years they've had these documents. The vice president cannot declassify documents. A president can.
All right, Congresswoman, last question I have for you. Because of 18, air quotes, Republicans in the Senate, the House majority now doesn't have the ability to defund the 87,000 goose-stepping IRS agents that the Democrats wanted to sick on the middle class. And you can thank Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn and the other Republicans in your party for defanging the House Republicans. The question I have for you is this. Will you commit right now to making sure this defunding of the IRS agents is in a must-pass bill, perhaps the debt ceiling negotiation? That's the next bit of leverage you folks in the House have. Will you commit now to this program that it's going to be in that bill?
Well, as you know, we passed H.R. 23 last night, which was to defund these IRS agents. We'll continue to work on that. I've not yet had the conversation with leadership or with other members on whether or not they will put this into other legislation that has to pass. So I think that that is an option that's available to us. But we are, very committed to making sure that average, ordinary Americans, small businesses, and farmers are not unfairly attacked in this bill. As you know, even the Washington Post said that the majority of these audits and the people that are going to be paying for this are those making under $75,000 a year, and 90% making under $200,000 a year. And even with that, we know with inflation that people making under $400,000 a year are already facing taxes, because inflation is a tax on ordinary people.
Understood. Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Hold their feet to the fire, Congresswoman. Let's see if we can get this done when the House has leverage back.